So the presidential election about 4 months away, will drug prices be the new battleground for the candidates? Let's bring in Raymond James's Chris Meekins. He's the firm's Washington healthcare policy analyst. Chris, great to have you with us. Was this, the op-ed today, was that just political rhetoric, or do you think that there is something to be concerned about if you are a healthcare investor?
Look, I think that if Democrats sweep, they've told you what they're going to do, which is they're going to expand the number of drugs subject to negotiation. So if you wake up the day after the election and Democrats control the House, Senate, and the White House, you probably are not going to have a good day. Otherwise, I think what we've seen is a status quo, when they legislate all the things they said they were going to do really require Congress to act. And I think Congress is unlikely to do that. What they're trying to do is pressure these companies to lower prices before the election so they can claim a win. Senator Sanders, chairman of the Senate Health Committee, has a hearing with the CEO of Novo in September. He threatened a subpoena and the CEO agreed to show up. And so what they want to do is right before that hearing in September, when a lot of the swing voters are paying attention, they want to be able to announce, look how much we lowered this drug price and held the pharmaceutical industry accountable. That's the goal here.
Do you think that happens? And, you know, what really stood out to me in the notes that you gave to our producer is that if Novo and or Lilly do that, then you're basically giving a win to the Democrats. And if they don't, you're helping Trump. I mean, how do you see this shaking out politically? And what do you think the calculus is at these companies in terms of giving Biden a win at this point?
Yeah, I'm glad I don't run government affairs for Novo or Lilly right now. That's for sure. It's you're hit if you do, hit if you don't. What I will say is that I believe, based on my conversations, the Trump administration and Trump team is watching. And if Trump happens to pull this thing out, as most of the polls show he's leading right now, you really don't want to be a company that's given a win to the other side. There will be problems if you do that. So I think the company has a tough road to hoe. I think they will try to lower prices a little bit, but you also don't want to set the precedent where every time you're hauled before Congress, you have to cut your prices if you believe they're legitimate prices. And so next thing you know, pharmaceutical company executives will be in every week if that becomes the new norm. So I think it's a tough situation. I think they probably give a little, but they're not going to give a lot.
Chris, thanks so much for joining. So question, as we're looking at the investment landscape going into the election cycle, and you really focus on investing the incremental dollar, if you're balancing your portfolio and allocating towards healthcare, where would you suggest investing that incremental dollar going into this landscape?
Look, the problem with this election is it really is a binary outcome in a lot of ways. So if you want to hide in med tech and talk to fundamental analysts that cover companies about companies that are well positioned right now and maybe undervalued at this point. But when you look at managed care, you can't just say, well, managed care almost always outperforms the year after the election, so I'll invest there, because it really comes down to what each company's enrolled lives look like, right? If Trump wins, it's good for Medicare Advantage. So Humana's, United, CVS's to some degree, Alignment. If Biden wins, then you probably don't want to be there. If Trump wins, you probably don't want to invest in Medicaid. So Molina, Centene, and nor do you want to be in the Affordable Care Act exchanges, because you have these huge expanded subsidies that expire at the end of 2025 unless Congress acts. So that makes an Oscar a little more questionable. Now, if Democrats win and Biden wins, the opposite's true. Those companies are fine. When you look at providers, it's a similar situation. Usually they end up navigating okay, but with the ACA expanded subsidies potentially going away, that makes an HCA and a tenant a little more nerve-wracking depending on what the outcome is. So you really are going to have to make an election call if you want to invest in individual companies within healthcare. That's the bottom line going into the election. And you've already seen in the last 4 days after Biden's debate performance, pretty notable shifts in certain names based on what people think is likely to happen.